A big hearty congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks 29-13 winners of Super Bowl 60. Welcome everybody to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Adam Azer and Jamie Eisenberg here on Sunday night. Oh man, I feel sick. Stomach ache. And that has nothing to do with the football, Jamie. I ate a lot of dessert. 4 cookies, 3 slices of cake. Was a dessert fest for me. How are you?
Were the cookies from Whole Foods?
Yep, and the cake. Not all the cookies were from Whole Foods, but I did get the brown butter Whole Foods cookies.
Good for you. I think I might go get some tomorrow.
And I bought them on Friday, and they were staring at me for 2 days, and it was very good. I didn't touch them.
You didn't touch them?
Nope. I was saving for the party, but then 2 other people showed up with cookies, so I was like, forget it. I'm just gonna pop these open. Anyway, we'll talk football. We got some other news items. We'll look ahead. We'll talk about George Pickens, talk about Kirk Cousins. We'll look ahead to Drake Maye and JSN and all of their outlooks for 2026. But it's the Seahawks 29-13. And as of now, I don't even think we know who
Ken Walker.
Ken Walker. Okay, good. Because he deserved it. Great game for Ken Walker. 27 carries, 135 yards, 2 catches, 26 yards. I got a text from a buddy during the game. Is he going to be a first-round pick next year? Obviously, we have to see where he ends up. He's a free agent. But what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl, Jamie?
I mean, obviously, it wasn't the best game. We got a little exciting toward the end, especially when they scored their first touchdown, the Patriots, and then, had the interception from Drake Maye. But then the defensive touchdown on top of that. So it got out of hand once again, but this was just a dominant defensive performance. And I thought we were going to get arguably the best defensive performance in the Super Bowl. The Ravens over the Giants has long been considered, the sort of the benchmark. And then I guess you go back further than that, the Bears victory over the Patriots in 85. But this was, almost historical. And what they did to the Patriots and Drake Maye and just frustrating him and making him look very ordinary. And a lot of the questions about the Patriots schedule and how they got here, all those things were certainly coming into play. But kudos to Seattle. They played the type of game they wanted to play, kick their field goals, keep it conservative, don't make the mistakes. The Patriots made them toward the end. Their defensive front was so dominant, and the Patriots offensive line was really, really struggling. And so it was just the exact type of game plan that Seattle could have drawn up, and they executed it to perfection.
Yeah, well said. And they blitzed really well. I actually thought Witherspoon had a case for MVP just with how good he was. Yeah, right. With how good he was blitzing early first possession of the game for New England. And then he forced that, what we thought was a fumble at the time, ended up being an interception return for a touchdown. And it was actually an important one. I'll check the final box score, but I think Seattle finished with 6 sacks instead of 7. Yeah. Originally that was ruled a sack. 7 would have tied the NFL record for most sacks in a Super Bowl, but then it was ruled an interception return for a touchdown. So they have only 6 sacks, 43 yards lost on those 6 sacks. Kind of amazing that Drake Maye scored over 20 fantasy points in this game. He threw for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns, but with 2 interceptions. He also led the team in rushing, 5 carries for 37 yards. I think the fact that, 4 straight games, a running back didn't have a carry longer than 10 yards against the Patriots, and Ken Walker goes out and does this, Jamie, really impressive, and a springboard for him fantasy-wise into the offseason.
I mean, I've said it a few times since Charbonnet's injury that if he stays in Seattle, and depending on the length of the rehab for Charbonnet, who tore his ACL in the divisional round against the 49ers, I think he's a second-round pick. Now people will point to his injury track record, and I get that and the concerns, and we'll see, if they add somebody else. Remember, while he is a free agent, they have, I believe it's $70 million in cap space. They have a lot of freedom to make some moves here if they want to. So they can maybe, keep Walker on a 1-year deal or franchise tag, and go out and still draft another running back and then go with Charbonnet and whatever they draft into 2027. They could give Walker, who clearly was fantastic for them, not just this game, but also in the NFC Championship game and even in that game against San Francisco when Charbonnet was injured. He's been a catalyst of this offense. I had somebody text me why were they ever giving Charbonnet so much work? When Walker looks like this, and it just kind of goes to show this was why he was a second round pick in the NFL draft. 4 years ago. It shows what his talent level is, and you deal with some of the pitfalls because the upside is so huge. And so, I think for us, when we talk fantasy for him, so it was 135, and how much was the receiving? 135, so 13 and a half, 15 and a half. So he's again, that's over 18 PPR points in every game that Charbonnet has either missed or left early. This,
Wow.
so that's a pretty good place to start. Um, I think once you get past Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, still put McCaffrey up there, Devon Achan, he starts to come into play. That's he's in that Chase Brown. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody. Saquon, Derrick Henry group. Like he belongs there.
Mhm. Yeah, and he's always had these flashes. So 2022 was Ken Walker's rookie season. He was a top 10 running back per game in his last 11 games. That was after Rashad Penny got hurt. 2023, he averaged 17.4 PPR points per game in his first 6 games, and then he just kind of struggled, and he left the game after 7 snaps. And it just never happened. 2024, he averaged 22.3 points per game in his first 5 games, but then only 11.7 in his last 6 games. So he does kind of tease you sometimes, Ken Walker. And like I said, he's pretty much never on the field in the 2-minute drill. So there's a few cheap points a game that he doesn't get. And it's not like Charbonnet is going to miss the whole season, I wouldn't think. So if he's back with the Seahawks. So a lot to talk about there. For Seattle, how big, because we're expecting Kubiak to, this will be his last game as a member of their coaching staff. How big of a loss is that going to be? I think it could be really big. And are you going to, is that going to affect your rankings of JSN, of Ken Walker, et cetera?
I don't think they've determined who the successor is yet, right? As the offense coordinator.
Haven't seen anything.
So I think when you look at it, obviously Sam Darnold has shown us now, and granted, you can make the case. We'll see how Kubiak does as a head coach, but he's played with 2 of the better offensive minds in the league, of Kevin O'Connell and Clint Kubiak.
Mm-hmm.
He's 31-7 in his last 38 games. That's pretty impressive. Now his fantasy numbers obviously are what they are.
Yeah.
But he's won games and he's been successful in making his number 1 receiver a great fantasy asset. This was the best year for JSN. You could say because DK Metcalf left. You could say because of Kubiak. Got to give Darnold some credit in helping JSN ascend to those heights. So we'll see who they hire. I mean, obviously that will determine it. I did a radio show this morning with our former colleague Nick Costas, who's a Giants fan like yourself.
Yeah.
And he asked me, who, just we talk Super Bowl a lot, but then his last question was like, who do I think is going to be like a what's a fantasy storyline we should follow? Essentially, I was like, kind of just stayed in his wheelhouse and talk Giants. And he brought up, the reason I'm bringing this up is he brought up Matt Nagy and the concerns about the offensive coordinator. They're not being exactly the type of guy that we wanted to see, to enhance the Giants guys. I think in the case of Seattle, like, sure, the wrong person could definitely take this the wrong direction. But I think, when you look at it, like if JSN is going to be drafted as a top 3 to 5 receiver, depending on where CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown go after Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, if that's the order, I still think he's going to, at worst case scenario, barring injury, hover around the top 10. So you're not going to lose too much if he has a little bit of a downturn. I think if Ken Walker is the guy and they continue to build out this offensive line, even if it's a bad offensive coordinator, he stays healthy, he's still going to be, potentially returning some great value if Charbonnet is out for an extended period of time. So I think when you look at the top 2 guys here, you kind of know what you're getting. Now, the rest of the receiving core, Shaheed's a free agent. Cooper Kupp's going to be 33. I'm very excited about Torrey Horton, just depending on whatever else they do, but, could be a good late round flyer. AJ Barner, I don't think anybody's going to be drafting him as a starting tight end. So we still have a lot of work to figure out the rest of the Seattle offense. But I think in the case of Walker and JSN, in terms of whoever's calling plays, you're still going to draft these guys at a relatively high level unless it's just something completely, absolutely disastrous, which I can't see being the case.
Which offense are you more confident in for next year, Seahawks or Patriots?
So offense as a whole, I would probably say still Seattle's. Playmakers, I think the Patriots will end up having more, but we have to see what they do in terms of the receiving core. And the only reason I say that is because we're going to draft Drake Maye. We're certainly going to draft him ahead of Sam Darnold. You're going to draft both running backs. I don't know if there's going to be a second running back for Seattle that's going to get drafted as high as the first 2 guys for New England, So wherever Charbonnet is, he's going to be a late round pick because there's going to be a lengthy rehab. And then I think when you look at this receiving core, like that's the biggest question. So you have a guarantee in JSN. Let's just say they decide to run it back again and add another young receiver. I think you're looking at still Stephon Diggs as a mid-round pick. I don't think he's going to be a late-round flyer. He didn't have a great game today, obviously, but there's just a lot of questions. But I think just in terms of like offense as a whole,
Yeah.
Slight lean towards Seattle.
Yeah, one thing about the Patriots is like they won 7 games this year by 13 or more points. And obviously they played such an easy division, and Drake Maye was 23rd per game in pass attempts, 17th per game in pass attempts, or I should say 17th in pass attempts per game in the first half, 24th in pass attempts per game in the second half. There were just so many games where he didn't have to do anything. They were killing everyone. It's probably, there's probably something similar there with Seattle. They didn't throw that much either, but I'd like to see May in some more competitive games with a tougher schedule. Obviously, they had basically a historically easy schedule, but did he have an easy schedule in terms of who he faced, teams, how they ranked against quarterbacks? It was probably on the easy side, but Drake Maye faced 3 opponents that ranked top 8 at the end of the year against quarterbacks, and he scored 27.2, 33.2, and 32.3 fantasy points against them. That was Carolina, New Orleans, and Cleveland. He had one bad game against Buffalo, one okay game against Buffalo. And he really didn't play well in the playoffs, and he still scored 19 or more points in 3 or 4 games against the best defenses in football. So, I guess, here's my point with May, right? Like, he threw for 4,400 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He ran for 450 yards, 4 touchdowns. He scored 24 points per game. Is it a good year? It's a really good year. And he was an amazing draft pick. It wasn't an MVP, a typical year for like an MVP. And he was second in the MVP race, one of the closest MVP races ever. You know what I'm saying, Jamie? Like, he had a great year. He didn't have a mind-blowing year. He didn't approach 5,000 yards. He didn't approach 40 touchdowns or anything like that. But I think there's room for more if they actually play a harder schedule and he has to throw more.
I would think so. But on the flip side, you could make a bust case for him as a fantasy quarterback too, because the schedule gets tougher. Like you said, he didn't play terrible. His fantasy numbers in the playoffs weren't terrible. They also weren't great. So 19 or more. His best game, I believe, was like 21 points, in the game against Houston, I think it was, when he had the 3 touchdowns. So aside from this,
I got him at 20.2. I don't know if he outscored that today, to be honest. I didn't know he scored 20 points in non-decimal scoring. I think,
but I think the thing that would be a little troubling is if they do run it back with the same cast of characters in the past.
Yeah.
Because now you have an older Diggs, you have still Kayshon Boutte, who did some nice things this season, but I don't know if he's a true number 2 guy. Kyle Williams has to take a big step forward. We have yet to see that. And Mac Hollins, while he's had some good games, I don't think, again, that he's the type of guy that elevates his quarterback. So you could certainly see a situation where, and while he ran this year, it's not like he was Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson type of runner. He was a good runner to enhance his fantasy production. I just think you're looking at, there's got to be a little bit more, because he's going to be drafted as a top 5 quarterback. I don't think anybody's going to necessarily run away from that based on what we saw in the playoffs and certainly today.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I was trying to say in a long-winded way, there are actually some things that worked against Drake Maye, the non-competitiveness of games and the fact that he just didn't have that good of a receiving core, and his best receiver was playing, 60% of the snaps most weeks, and he still had a terrific year and finished as QB3 per game. Before we go to break, let me tell you, right now about BetMGM, because you're thinking, football's over. Well, that doesn't matter, because football season might be over, but the action never stops at BetMGM. Register with BetMGM to get instant access to the best variety of parlay selection features, no sweat and boost tokens, live betting options, and much more. New players can receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets with the bonus code FANTASY if they don't win their first bet. And you don't want to miss out on any of the hard-hitting action at BetMGM. Place your moneyline, parlay bets, and more today. Use that bonus code FANTASY, all right? Use it, FANTASY. BetMGM, make it legendary. When we come back, we'll wrap up our Super Bowl thoughts, talk about some more news from around the NFL after this.
Mr. Richard?
Yeah, Doc.
Unfortunately, Mr. Nibbles crossed the Rainbow Bridge moments ago.
He was the best hamster I have ever known.
I know this is a difficult time for you, but would you happen to know of any deep stash dynasty tight ends I could zero in on for my draft tonight?
Jatavion Sanders.
Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss.
Okay, welcome back, folks. Super Bowl stats. This was the second Super Bowl with no touchdowns scored through 3 quarters. The first one was also a Patriots Super Bowl, 2018 Rams Patriots. New England, first team since 1974. Thomas Schaefer was negative something years old, rooting for the Vikings in the Super Bowl in 1974. New England, first team since then to be scoreless through the first 3 quarters. And the Seahawks were 60-1 to win the Super Bowl in the preseason. Longest odds to win the Super Bowl since the there's like a little bit of symmetry here. I'll give you that hint.
Seahawks.
No, the Patriots, 2001 Patriots, who are also 60-1. 60-1. 60-1 would have been an impressive year. All right. Anything else?
Walker, first running back to win MVP since 1998.
1998. Let me think. Not Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any other thoughts on the game?
I thought it was, a positive to see Trevion Henderson at least more involved in doing something, so for, going to be a very big evaluation of the Patriots backfield this offseason. They clearly did not run the ball well. We didn't expect them to run the ball well. Ramondre made more plays in the passing game, but they combined for 8 catches. So I thought that was encouraging to see. Really, I think at this point, it's just a matter of, on the Patriots side of things, is what the receiving core looks like, because we can certainly debate Henderson and where he'll go and Stevenson where he'll go, but a lot of questions still about the Patriots receiving core. And then for the Seahawks, it's what the second receiver is going to look like. And Charbonnet's, I think, health compared to what they do with, Walker in that contract.
JSN missed a little bit of this game, by the way. He was being evaluated for a concussion. I cannot believe he came.
No, I think it was ankle, right?
Oh, was it an ankle? They were saying, I thought they were saying,
oh, maybe it's a concussion. I'm sorry.
He hit his head on the turf. If it was that, usually when a guy goes back to the locker room for a head injury, you're right about, he did have an ankle thing where he had like a bandage, but I thought it was head injury. Anyway, when a guy goes to the locker room, it's pretty rare they come back in the game, but he came back in the game. That first interception, Patriots make it 19-7 early in the fourth quarter. They force a 3-and-out. No, it wasn't quite a 3-and-out. There was a first down, then 3 more plays, then a punt. They get the ball back, and I don't know what that was. I got to see a replay of that. It was just a deep ball downfield. It was, it wasn't even close. It was such an easy interception for Julian Love, and it was the end of the game. The end of the game.
It really was, yeah. I think Collinsworth said, like, you could see the Patriots starting to get in a rhythm a little bit.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, yeah, unfortunate throw. Look, Drake Maye did not obviously have his A game today. Give credit to the Seahawks and what they did, but they score in under a minute, to get it to 19-7 right after the Barner touchdown. So we go 3 quarters with no touchdowns, then we get 2 back-to-back right away, and then it was like, okay, maybe we have a little bit of a fourth quarter, back and forth. Patriots make a run. Yeah, it felt like the first time that we had any sort of a competitive game.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob said it was the most boring Super Bowl ever in our chat.
It was pretty boring. I was at Giants Ravens. I believe it was 2000 or 2001.
2000.
And that should have been the first shutout in Super Bowl history. If you recall, the Giants scored on a kickoff return.
I do.
And the Ravens defense is very angry about that because their defense was so dominant in that game and arguably the best defense of all time.
Do you remember what happened right after that kickoff return for a touchdown?
They had a kickoff return for touchdown too.
Yeah, the Ravens. You know how bad I legitimately threw a shoe. Like, who throws a shoe? I threw a shoe across the room watching that game. I was so angry. Oh man, I think it was.
I think I heard you tell that story before.
Yeah,
So
I'll never forget.
I was very young in my journalistic career. I was at the first newspaper I ever worked at, the Boca Raton News, and I went to back-to-back Super Bowls. And the first one was one of the most exciting Super Bowls of all time, which was Rams Titans. The Mike Jones tackle. I think it's Mike Jones tackle at the 2-yard line.
Oh wow.
To win it for the Rams. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then go to the next one in Tampa. And it was bad. that was just a beatdown of epic proportions.
Honestly, I think. Wait, what was the next one?
The Giants.
Giants. Oh, that one. Okay. I think this was a better game than last year. Last year was 40-22 Philadelphia.
Yeah, that was over early too. Yeah.
This game was not exactly over early. The Patriots defense did enough. And I don't know. In the fourth quarter with the 2 interceptions, the Patriots really pissed down their leg. They just stunk. Before that, I was just blown away by how well the Seahawks were playing. The Chiefs were horrible all game last year. They were horrible on defense. They were horrible on offense. So I don't know. I mean, that was a pretty boring, pretty lousy Super Bowl too. Nothing's ever going to be as bad as Chargers-Niners. Let's see the score of that one.
55-14, I think it was.
Let's see. San Francisco. 49-26, and I don't even think it was that close. The game was
49-26.
That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, 1995, 49.
Didn't you get 55? I thought they got 55.
They got 55. This game I don't remember at all, but the 1989 season, 1990 Super Bowl, they beat the Broncos 55-10.
Oh, maybe that's something.
That must have been a game too.
Christian Gonzalez made 2 of the most amazing plays.
He's so good.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was, and honestly, Darnold didn't play well, right? You agree? I thought Darnold was pretty
well.
bad.
I forget where it was. Might have been to the second or third field goal, third and something inside the 30, and they ran it, and it was like they're just scared of Darnold. He had just got harassed and made a bad throw, and they basically were like, okay, we're just playing for 3 here. Now I get it. It obviously worked out well, but he is who he is. He's a game manager. He's never going to be a guy. He's going to have his moments, obviously, but never going to be a guy that you're going to say, I want him to go win every game for us. It's not going to be like what the Bills asked Josh Allen to do, for example. He's never going to be like that.
No, but I'm just thinking, when was the last time he threw an interception? Week 17. Good for him, man. He week 18, everything was on the line. Week 18, right? Number 1 seed on the line, didn't throw an interception, didn't throw one in 3 postseason games, but I felt like he was begging to throw one today. I couldn't believe he didn't throw one. It would have been a great throw to JSN, but JSN could have had a super long touchdown early in the.
I mean, he was so under duress in that play.
Yeah, and he did a great job just avoiding the blitz, avoiding the sack, but he missed them. It could have been a huge play.
Yep, and he overthrew Shaheed on the one too.
I don't remember that one. Maybe I missed
the second
half. Okay, I may have missed that one. I was vacuuming. My house got torn apart.
You were vacuuming during the Super Bowl. That's such an Adam Azer thing to do.
It's either that or it's either during the game or after this podcast. I got to get it over with. All right, let's go through our news and notes. And once again, if you're a Seahawks fan, congratulations. Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're a Patriots fan, you got to feel good. But I think it was Mike Tirico said, hopefully Drake Maye gets back. It's not a guarantee. Just ask Dan Marino. You never know. All right, your news and notes. Arizona and Miami, according to Adam Schefter. I think his name is. I've heard of him. They're trying to trade their quarterbacks, Tua and Kyler Murray. It's going to be tough with the money owed to those guys, especially for Miami. Dallas is expected to franchise tag George Pickens, which would come in at about 1 year and $28 million. But the franchise tag could just be as a placeholder to sign a long-term deal. Let me ask you this about Pickens. We had a couple of games, maybe 3 games late in the year with Pickens, where he sort of mentally disappeared and was completely ineffective. And this was the 5 catches for 37 yards on 9 targets at Detroit. and then 3 for 33 on 6 targets against the Vikings. I know we would, sorry, this might be the only player, Jamie, that I'd ask this about. Are you concerned about him signing a long-term deal? Like getting that money?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is, you got to look at the whole, I think, totality of his career, where, and I'm talking about Georgia also now. I've had the benefit of talking to somebody who was part of his draft process and thinks he is a little bit of a misjudged person in terms of his personality and some of the things that we see, and that can easily be snapped straight, if that makes sense. Be put in line.
I think it probably happened a little bit this year, right, for Pickens.
So, and that's where I was kind of going to go next, is that he was with a great franchise with the Pittsburgh Steelers, with a great coach in Mike Tomlin, and still had some moments where you're like, what is going on here? Then he goes to the Cowboys, and now he's with a great quarterback, because he didn't really have that in Pittsburgh, and you're seeing the production. And so sometimes you can overlook some things when the production is there. So to your question, once he gets paid, do we get a little bit concerned about some of the motivation? And, we see this from time to time with guys that get paid. I think you have to just look at it and say, this is a great situation that he's in. I love the comments from his teammates. There's been a lot of back and forth in several media stuff about, I think it was Micah Parsons recruiting him to Green Bay. And CeeDee Lamb saying that's not happening. We're not letting him go. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all sort of shakes out. But I think when you start to, this is going to be a big question for us, is like the receiver position, and how there was like a kind of a pretty big drop off from the elite guys to the second tier guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard not to view him as a high end second tier guy who has a chance to still be elite. If he wasn't on the same team with CeeDee Lamb, he would definitely be elite. So I think he's still going to be somebody you have to really be aggressive to draft next year.
Yeah, George Pickens, weeks 7 through 17. CeeDee Lamb missed basically all of week 3, 4, 5, and 6. Came back in week 7. Week 7 through 17, CeeDee Lamb was the number 12 wide receiver per game. George Pickens was the number 14 wide receiver per game. Lamb had a 26% target share. Pickens had a 24% target share. Not a ton for Jake Ferguson there. But, overall, George Pickens was the number 4 wide receiver overall, number 6 per game. So he had an amazing year. 4 in non-PPR, 5 in full PPR, number 6 per game in both formats. But it was those last 10 games, week 7 through 17, they played about a half of week 18, where here's the 17-game pace for Pickens: 102 catches, 1,522 yards, 5 touchdowns on 146 targets. Very impressive stuff. And
I know we made a lot of comparisons to the Bengals with this team.
Right.
And I think if you look at it, like, Lamb is a poor man's Jamar Chase. Not by much, but a little bit less, I think. And Higgins and Pickens, I think, are very comparable.
For sure. So who do you like better, Higgins or Pickens?
I probably would lean slightly to Higgins, but it's close.
Okay, next news item is about Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers said his rehab has been phenomenal. So we now know that it was a torn ACL and a torn meniscus. I'm not gonna get into this, but Malik Nabers, I guess he's on the right track. And Joe Shane, their GM, was optimistic about him being ready for training camp, or at least early in training camp. Kirk Cousins is expected.
Oh, stop there, because you've been very pessimistic about.
I remain pessimistic.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, so he shows up for training camp. He's good to go. No hesitation. Where are you drafting?
2nd round.
Okay, fair.
And here's why. This happens all the time with injured players. Just because they are back, it doesn't mean they're back. Just because they're playing, it doesn't mean they're themselves. I do think it's going to take a while, maybe in 2027, until we see the real Malik Nabers. A torn ACL and a torn meniscus, I'm not an expert. We will ask the experts before the season starts, but that's a bigger deal than just a torn ACL. Also, if we want to stay on Giants news, they hired Matt Nagy, which we weren't super jazzed about, but we weren't so negative about. They also hired Greg Roman to be their run game coordinator, basically. So people seem to like this. Like Matt Nagy can focus on the passing game. Greg Roman can help with the run game. But I would say, Jamie, the indications seem to be that the Giants are going to want to run the football. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think they want to be a pretty physical team. Maybe I'd say run first if they can, if the game script allows it.
Have you known John Harbaugh to be a pass first, air it out type of head coach?
Yeah, actually, he has had seasons before the Lamar Jackson era of different types of outcomes where I would say you wouldn't necessarily label him as anything. I don't remember. Actually, I could look it up for you, but I remember doing that research before the Lamar Jackson era. I think you had a year where they led the league in pass attempts, actually. He's been coaching for a long time. But yeah, I think had some pass. Here's what I wrote. It has been a very run-heavy coach since Lamar Jackson entered the league in 2018, but had some pass-heavy teams before that. Led the NFL in pass attempts per game in both 2015 and 2016 with Joe Flacco. How about that?
I mean, look. My guess is if Nabers is right, they draft a wide receiver, maybe re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson. But you got a lot of pieces in place there, right? So
Sure.
you play toward your strengths.
Yeah.
If Nabers is not right and they don't draft a wide receiver and Wan'Dale leaves, then Scatterboo might be the guy that you know, I don't want to say build your offense around, but, sort of lean on that ground game.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the personnel shakes out. But I don't think he wants to necessarily put it all on Drake Maye and say, go be our savior.
Ooh, I love that you just called Jackson Dart Drake Maye. I love that slip there.
What'd I do?
You call Jackson Dart Drake Maye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Put on Jackson Dart.
All right. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. We got some more notes to talk about Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Cliff Kingsbury, and more when we come back on Fantasy Football Today.
Can I get a spot real quick?
Yeah, sure, man. Hey, wait a minute. You're Dave Richard from FFT.
Yeah.
Huh. Hey, I snagged Alvin Kamara in the 4th round. What do you think?
Is it PPR?
Yeah, full point.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I had 4 baseball games today.
What was your record?
Not good. 1-3.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was rough.
I had 4 cookies today. So
Had a very large piece of a football cookie cake.
Cookie cake is so good. I mean,
Publix cookie cakes are the best.
Yeah, but this Whole Foods, the cake that somebody brought was from Whole Foods. It was delicious. It was like one of those like berry cakes with cream.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a bad sweet tooth, and I cannot go into Whole Foods without buying something.
I've been pretty good this week because I knew I was gonna attack.
Their bakery is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, Kirk Cousins expected to be released according to Adam Schefter. He really wasn't that bad when he took over as the full-time starter late in the year. He was on pace for about 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, averaged a respectable 6.8 yards per attempt. But he did that with Drake Maye playing in with Drake London playing in only 3 games. So that was Kirk Cousins. Max Crosby, edge rusher for the Raiders, could be on the trading block. A tremendous player. The Colts will begin contract talks with Daniel Jones pretty soon, according to Tom Pelissero, who also reports that it's becoming more likely that Aaron Rodgers will return to Pittsburgh for the 2026 season. And I thought about it with Cousins and with Rodgers, and I thought about Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. And I'm wondering, should we just not draft with high picks players who have these old quarterbacks whose best days are behind them, whose teams don't really want them? Should we just avoid those players?
So I guess the case would be made for the teams that we know. So are you putting Daniel Jones in that category?
I guess he's not. No, he's not like old. He's not old. I think it's like Russell Will. These retreads who just keep going from team to team. Like Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, the Steelers want him back, but he was terrible for Metcalf. He wasn't bad for Adams and Wilson the year before. But,
but you say terrible for Metcalf. Like I think Metcalf kind of has been the same guy he's been production wise for the last couple of years.
I don't know. I feel like this was a bad year for Metcalf. Was it? I mean, 850 yards in 15 games. Ugh. What's that?
I mean, what's his production been the last like 4 or 5 years? Like it hasn't been great.
Yards per game last 5 years: 57, 62, 70, 66, 57. On the low end this year, past year. Okay, fair enough.
He's getting older.
He's in his prime though. He's 28 this year. Yeah, but it didn't work for Bowers. Maybe that was because of the injury. Who else? Whoever we've attached to Russell Wilson, it hasn't really worked that well for that guy.
Cortland Sutton had a 10 touchdown season with him in Denver.
Still wasn't that good of a year though.
Listen, again, I don't think you're looking at these guys and saying, "Oh wow, these quarterbacks are going to make these guys better." But in the case of Metcalf, like if there's nobody else there, and now you have McCarthy's offense, like DK Metcalf is still going to be a good number 2 receiver. I don't think he's going to, crack anybody's top 15. We'll see where Kirk Cousins goes. Like, where's a potential? Like, if Cousins goes to Minnesota, right, and that's the guy they want to pair with JJ McCarthy, and he ends up starting, I don't think we're going to run away from Justin Jefferson.
I'm going to run away from Jefferson.
You're going to run away from Jefferson at Cousins versus McCarthy?
In the first round, I will not take him in the first.
Oh, I don't think he's a first-round pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people will want to take him in the first round. Right now,
they should if they want to, but I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to advise anybody to do it.
Then I won't run away from him once we get to the second round.
Yeah.
But I mean, he'll be an interesting case. Everybody knows that Jefferson's arguably the best receiver in football. So they're going to go like this. They're going to say, well, Kirk Cousins is going to be a lot better than what he had last year. But I remember those same people going, Russell Wilson, a lot better than what he had last year,
I think if it's like, so you're looking at Miami as an opening, right? So let's just say they don't get the quarterback that they want as the replacement for Tua, and it's not Quinn Ewers, or they want to just pair a veteran with Quinn Ewers. And let's say it's Cousins, right? I don't think anybody's going, wow, Jalen Waddle just got better because Kirk Cousins is there. No, that's not what you want.
God, man, can I share something that I shouldn't share?
Sure.
I just saw Schaefer with the biggest yawn that I have seen in years. I mean, that was a grown man's yawn. Is it just, are we boring today, or is it just really late? Do we need things?
Well, first off, happy belated birthday to Schaefer.
Oh yeah.
You guys aren't boring. My dog woke me up two times last night. I didn't get any sleep, so it's just really late for me.
I mean, that was something there. It was
long weekend celebrating his birthday.
What'd you do for your birthday?
Nothing. Just went out for food, and then I played golf the next day.
Good for you. Love to hear that. Is it you guys good to go outside? Is it back in the 70s?
The tundra. That's still the tundra. Today was beautiful. Today was a beautiful day.
Oh man, today was 2 degrees. Wind chill was like -50.
2?
Yeah, today. I think hopefully the last brutally cold day. It's gonna be in the 30s.
2.
All right, I think we're pretty much done with our show. And what'd you say?
You decided to move there.
I was one regret after another.
I was not far from your parents' house where I had to go for the second leg of doubleheader today.
Mullins.
And I was driving through the beautiful city of Parkland, and I was like, man, if only Adam Mazer lived here, we could have met for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
He could have taken me to the most overpriced deli in the history of the world. Would have been great.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's see what else. The Rams hired Cliff Kingsbury. He's going to be an assistant coach. Diana Rossini of the Athletic says that people close to Travis Kelce think he's going to play in 2026. And Eagles, 2 offensive linemen, 2 great offensive linemen, at least Lane Johnson for sure. Landon Dickerson, another very good offensive lineman. They could be off the team next year. Johnson could retire, and I have to sneeze, but Dickerson might. Okay. Jamie, if the
No, look up. Look at your light. Look at your light. Look at the light.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to see the Eagles lose 2 good offensive linemen and their offensive line coach. I'm starting to get away from the Eagles are going to bounce back and start thinking the Eagles might really struggle again next year.
Well, I will say this. Like, this is where we see how good Howie Roseman is, because he's been one of the more aggressive general managers that we've seen, certainly in the last 10 years. He's found ways to retool the team on the fly, from Nick Foles to Jalen Hurts to, making the, decision to go sign Saquon Barkley and trading for A.J. Brown and, taking chances on all these, defensive linemen in the NFL draft that people have passed over because of, some questionable situations. And now he's got to retool the offensive line and the offense. And so can they get the job done? I think, A.J. Brown sounds like he's open to returning and not necessarily, wanting to request a trade, or at least that's the impression I got from some of the interviews.
Yeah.
And so if he stays, and then we'll see what happens to Dallas Goedert, like, I don't know. It's going to be hard to avoid drafting them in certain spots. Barkley will still be, I think, at worst case, a second-round pick. I probably will be out on him just because of his age, but we'll see what the offensive line looks like. I probably will be aggressive in drafting A.J. Brown if he returns, especially if Goddard's gone, because you're going to get him in round 3. And then Devontae Smith also will be somebody I'll be looking to draft because if Goddard's gone as well. So we'll see. There's a lot of still moving parts here for that team, but should be interesting to see, what happens with the Eagles this offseason.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And to all of you dedicated viewers, listeners, hanging out with us late on Sunday night after that riveting Super Bowl. Thank you all for hanging out. We appreciate it.
What was your favorite commercial?
I don't really pay attention. I was mostly vacuuming and mopping, but the Good Will Hunting sitcom was so funny. Did you see that one? Oh, it was awesome.
You know which one I liked was the Xfinity Jurassic Park one.
You know what? I read about that like a week ago, and I didn't see it. It was good.
It just made me laugh because it solved all their problems, and it was like a very clever, like, oh, the internet works. It shut down it kept the operating system working.
That's good. I'm gonna go look that one up. Yeah, it was as they're pointing out in the chat, it was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck, Ted Danson, Matt LeBlanc, what's his name? Jaleel White. That was Urkel.
Yeah. And
the guy who played Carlton. Oh, can't remember his freaking
Alfonso
name.
Rivero.
Alfonso Rivero, yeah. It was very fun. And they used that technology that made them all look very young, which just freaks me out. But yeah, good commercial. And the Ben Stiller one looked very funny. I couldn't really hear it, but it looked pretty funny. Oh yeah, see, Ben Stiller Instacart was the best by far. Okay. Thanks everybody. Have a great night. Talk to you again on Wednesday. See ya.